Are you ready to heal, to move from grief to peace? Well, what I'm about to share with you was groundbreaking. It's a process of withheld communication and revealing it and moving through some of the regret or the things we wish we would have said or the things that we did and we wish we hadn't. Death brought up a lot of things between my father and I that I said or did, but for our relationship, it was more things that I didn't say and I wish I would have, or I didn't reveal, but I wish I would have, because that was sort of the theme or the lesson in our relationship was not communicating enough, not speaking to each other enough, not revealing, or really just the willingness to be vulnerable. And it was really hard. It was one of the most difficult men I felt in my life to be vulnerable with, but the greatest teacher. And so in this video, I'm going to encourage you to be brave and to be vulnerable and to be real about some of the things that were said and not said. And I'm going to show you how to express those and understand really what you wanted underneath of those things. And they can be both positive and negative. It really doesn't matter. Withheld communication destroys relationships. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with somebody and 10 years later you find out, wow, there's all these secrets or things I didn't know. Or you find out this person really feels this way and you thought they felt that way. When we withhold communication, we're withholding a part of us from the other person. And when we have withheld communication, it throws off the possibility of being authentic and real with each other. For example, if my dad thought that we did something wrong, he wouldn't communicate that, he would test us. And then he would watch us to see if he was right that we did something wrong. And he would do anything he could to try and prove it instead of just speak that. That way, we couldn't speak our truth, he had to be right about his. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're jealous or insecure and you withhold that from the other person, you'll start to spy on them. Or you'll start to notice, oh wow, this person's 20 minutes late. My intuition all of a sudden is right, when it's really not your intuition necessarily. It's you're withholding fear because you don't want this person to see that part of you. And so those things don't get healed or transformed. Maybe you're the opposite, where you're constantly telling the other person, but it sounds like you're blaming them, when really you have some withheld communication or things that need to be expressed and worked on. And so I found this to be groundbreaking and powerful because there was a lot there that I didn't know. And part of the grieving process is no matter what happened to your dad, it's that we all have things in our life that we didn't say or we wish we hadn't. And what really brought this up is a long, long time ago, I was at a workshop and a woman had stood up and was talking about how she's confused and conflicted because she has the most amazing man in her life. And he's romantic and he's fun and he's smart and he loves his work. And she feels special when she's with him. She feels seen. And by the time she got done talking about him, like the whole room was in love with this guy and he wasn't even there. It was like, wow. But she's afraid to say yes to marrying him and she couldn't figure out why. And that was, part of her journey is he's great, but how come I'm afraid of that? Well, the next day she didn't show up to the workshop. And when we all showed up, some major things had, gone down between that and the next day. And we went, to her room and knocked on the door and, we couldn't find her. About an hour later, she shows up and we were all concerned and she's in tears. And she grabbed the microphone and was talking with the speaker and said, I just got a phone call, from the man of my dreams. And I decided last night that it was just fear because I don't think I'm worthy of this. I didn't grow up in an environment where women were treated well and I didn't think I deserved it. And so here I am with the perfect man and I'm pushing him away because I don't feel like I deserve it. And so I decided I was going to tell him that I want to marry him now. Well, she got out of the shower and there was a voicemail, and she called and listened to it, and it sounded something like this. And this is 21 years ago, so I'll do my best to remember what she said, but I remember how it felt. And it sounded like something like this. Veronica, I love you with all my heart. I wish I could be there with you. I remember the day we met. I remember the black skirt you wore. I remember how many times you were touching your hair because you were nervous but you didn't say it. I remember you looking at the menu like, am I ordering something too expensive? Because you weren't sure if you wanted the more expensive items. I remember the story you told me about growing up. I remember you talking about your mom and dad. I remember feeling like I finally found somebody that's for me. There's been an accident, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. A plane just flew through the World Trade Center, and I'm stuck on the top floor, and I'm not going to make it out. And just as he was saying, I love you, the phone cut out. So you could imagine the pain that she's in. That was the way in which the man in her life died, and somebody's son also died that day, along with a lot of others. And so she is in a complete breakdown over regret. Why didn't I say this? Why didn't it work out this way? Why couldn't I? Why couldn't I? And there's no answer that anyone can give you that's going to make that pain go away. There's no answer to why your dad died, even if you know. There's no answer to how to deal with that. It's a process like everything else in life. And the speaker looked at her and offered her immense compassion, as we all did. And we had all just found out that the second plane flew through. We were in Hawaii, so we were many hours behind. And so it was devastating for all of us. And some people had family in New York, and so we had to support them because they didn't know if their family was anywhere near. And so a lot of us have those regrets or things with people in our life right now. If you have any relationship that you value or has meaning, there's regret there. Because growing up, anytime we shared our feelings, we got hurt. When it was time to tell the truth, it was usually because somebody felt like we did something wrong, but no one asked us to tell the truth about, how we got an A. Or when we did really good things, no one said, well, tell the truth. Why did you do such a great thing for another human? It was almost always negative. So we learned to withhold our feelings because the truth meant more pain than freedom. And so in that moment, there's nothing we could do or say other than have compassion for her. And she already knows that she could have done it earlier. She already knows she could have said it earlier. But the truth is, she just wasn't ready. She had to work through some of those things so that she could be ready. A lot of things we could come up with could have changed that day. He could have come. She could have asked him. She could have done this 10 years ago. She could have had a different family. There's so many factors on how it could have worked out differently. But none of that matters now. Sometimes when things come up in our life, the only thing we can do is look at how are we relating to Dad's death. And you remember my story about the ICU when I hadn't said the words I love you or acknowledged him my whole life. And I finally got that before he died, luckily. But many people don't have 22 years of training like me to know that, to look for the withheld communication and make the distinction. Oh, wow, I'm asking him to show up because I'm not willing to. And in our relationships, we're always asking people to give us what we aren't giving ourselves. It's like codependency. But not everyone has been doing this as long as I have, and even I struggle still through that. And family seems to always have been the toughest for me. So when I really got clear about these regrets, I noticed that there's lessons here, just like that woman. I mean, the speaker looked at her and said, so what's the spiritual lesson here for you? Because this isn't the only place where you feel unworthy of not having what you want. It just shows up more with a man because, you want to be married and be a mom. And that's also where it's going to hurt the most. But whatever regrets you have or withheld communication you have with your dad, he's not the only person you have it with. To be free to express ourselves, to be free to be radically honest and say what needs to be said is a practice for all of us, especially men. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the areas to listen for. So when I'm reading my regrets, I want you to listen for the meaning in what I'm regretting. And so sometimes we regret criticizing others, judging, lying, or defending ourselves. And so what you want to look for is the behaviors or the actions, the words, what actually was said and done, or what wasn't said and done. And underneath that, there's usually judgment and criticism. And underneath that is, hate or anger or hurt. And underneath that is, I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be heard. I just wanted to have intimacy or feel closer to you. I just wanted to know that I mattered. And so you can sort of follow that pathway as I read mine. And I'm going to show you how to write out yours. That I regret that I pushed you away. I was afraid to love you. I regret I waited so long to say I love you. It was easier to blame you for not saying I love you, son. I regret that I judged you. I didn't know how to speak my truth. I regret that I ignored you. I didn't want to stop blaming you. I regret that I didn't acknowledge you. I was so angry at you for not acknowledging me. I regret that I called you stupid. I hated that I wasn't heard or seen as smart. I regret I didn't show you gratitude for who you are and the things that you've done for our family and me. I always felt separated from you. I just wanted to feel close. And so, the good thing about this is that it's never going to lead to an argument now. And the other person's not going to be hurt or sad or upset or hate you for it. In fact, when I went through this, I could feel for the first time my dad's presence even after he's gone. And there was some compassion and forgiveness and understanding there. You'd be amazed at how people kind of know this underneath, and that you know underneath what's really happening. It's just that when we speak it, it becomes real. And we want it to become real because now we can let that go and be 100% responsible. And now live a life that includes that in our relationships. If you find that during this process, you think, well, I don't have any regrets, we had a great relationship, just know that it's not possible to tell everything to everyone. And a lot of these things may go back to childhood. It really doesn't matter. But your ability to do this is going to empower your relationships everywhere else and give people permission to be that real with you. Because when we're not, that's when relationships hurt the most. Veronica has made some serious transformations within a year of that, where she was able to open herself back up again. And this is really what gets to happen, is you get to open yourself back up to being love, to being okay, to being at peace with yourself again. And the only person that can stop you is you. And so understand that being vulnerable or revealed or radically honest, in 22 years of working with thousands of people, I can count the amount of people that really grew up that way. And so there's no blame or judgment on you. They're just feelings. Remember when you learned how to walk and you tripped and fell over the carpet and you got up in bad carpet, right? We learn to blame things from an early age, because when we're vulnerable and walking and we want to walk to our parents for the first time, We're not going to say, oh, I'm learning to walk. The carpet did get in my way. I'm just learning to walk. It's like, no, we got to blame something because we feel ashamed we didn't walk and get to our parents, even though we've never walked a day in our life. The mind's always blaming something. So when you say the regret, follow the pattern. I regret that I. And you want to stay away from the word you or dad, just I, because that really brings the truth present. I regret that I. And then the behavior or the action or the words, what you said and did, or what you didn't say and didn't do. And then underneath that, you want to relate to the fear or, the missing need. I regret that I called you stupid because I didn't feel like you saw how smart I was. I regret that I judged you because I always felt judged and I just wanted to feel loved. And you'll start to notice as we go deeper, there's fear or some type of pain there. And really what you wanted was to feel safe or valued or treasured. Very similar to the previous videos where we talked about what did dad mean to you? And now what do you mean to yourself? And when we get to that meaning, it's like, wow, now I can show up this way in my life. And I know the impact of it. I can feel it. So I may never spend another day in my life not speaking my truth or not loving someone who loves me and risk them dying. But the truth is, a part of us dies in a relationship when we're hiding our truth anyway. We just stay in those longer. And so having your dad die really gets you present, like, wow, the value of this relationship is moment to moment. And if I don't ever go to bed angry. If I honor that, then I'm being an amazing human being. And when that day comes, I can celebrate this person as opposed to have the regret. There was a book a nurse wrote, The 5 Fears When You Die. And it was geared around men. And one of the things that came up was, I regret that I didn't express my feelings. And nearly every man says at the end of their life. And so that's true for all of us, but more so men because our feelings aren't valued. And so now you get to bring completion to this. And if it's uncomfortable, great. That just means you're healing. If it's difficult, great. That means you're healing. That means you're not willing to live in that pain because right now it's up to you to make a choice. Do I want to keep living in the grief and the pain? Or do I want to heal it? Because there's no time to do this. Time's not going to help you. In fact, time's against you because we will learn to live with it and store it and pretend it doesn't bother us. And that just breaks us down. It slowly closes us off from love. I want to end this video with this. Love in and of itself doesn't hurt. It's the lack of love that hurts. Someone truly loving you might bring up hurt for you, but they're not coming from a place of hurt. They're coming from a place of love. And love causes us to look at those tender parts of us. And so we think, oh, it hurts being loved. But no, love's bringing up an opportunity for you to love deeper and heal more. And so sometimes the two get collapsed. It's like I've been hurt the most when I love the most. Well, there's truth to that. But it wasn't your love for others that hurt. And your love definitely didn't cause others to hurt, even though people may blame you for loving them. Unconditional love is the ultimate source of healing and compassion and tenderness. And it might make you uncomfortable, but good. Sometimes the people we need in our life that love us the most, that are coming from a trustworthy place, we need to be uncomfortable with them so we can learn to love deeper and raise our vibration. So I'll put this in a handout. Take your time with it. Really be in it. Because part of healing is you got to be in it. And I knew when I found out about my dad having cancer that this was going to be difficult. I just knew it. And I knew I had to take it on. Part of what inspired this is like I needed to be present and to honor my feelings and not just be there 100% for dad while silently neglecting and hating me, because that would impact how I showed up for him. And so I knew that whether it was going to be a month or 6 to 9 months, and I was ready for 6 to 9 months of taking care of him, that it was going to be day to day, that I had to live day to day, moment to moment, and keep taking care of me while going through this. Otherwise, my pattern growing up is that I'm shy, introverted, and I hide all my stuff. And I could very easily go back to that if I didn't, make a commitment to being in the process of transformation and healing while my dad was dying. And if I could go back to March 26th when I found out he had cancer till April 25th when he died, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't do anything differently. Even though it took me 44 years to say I love you to him. That doesn't matter. He died knowing and feeling loved. And it doesn't matter he didn't say it back, because I experienced the love with him, even though he couldn't go there with me or my brother or my mom. My sister got an I love you, but I never heard him say I love you to my mom my entire life. But I got to be the one to show up for me, because there's other areas of my life where I have struggled loving people and letting them love me. And so this was an opportunity to not just heal with my dad, but also heal me so that I can bring more love into all my relationships. Okay. I'll catch you in the next video.